Crystal Tower Information Whiskey 21530, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on Oshkosh, Roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Archer 71143, flying flag, runway 280 left, quick takeoff, left hand southbound.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, every flight.
Well, happy belated Thanksgiving, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. I am Jim, one of your hosts. I am joined by the one and only Badger pilot.
Hey, Jim. Happy Thanksgiving.
And also with you.
Yeah, we've been staying busy with the holiday schedule, and to be cognizant of everybody's time during the holidays, this episode is going to be a little bit on the shorter side of things. And we're also short one member. We don't have Maddie with us today.
Yeah, Maddie had driven back up to Minnesota to spend the holidays with her family, and now she's on her way back down to Kansas. So as much fun as it would be to live in Maddie's drive back to Kansas, record this, I don't know that it was going to work. So I don't know if she should really be reading the news while she's driving. So
yeah, or the show notes for that matter.
She could just be a fly on the wall and then just make random comments as necessary. But at any rate, Maddie's not with us this time, but we hope to have her back next time.
Sounds good.
Badger, I don't know if I'm just the algorithms have changed or what, but I'm seeing more and more of your YouTube pop up in my feed. Have you been busier with YouTube, or is that something else?
I have been busier this week, notwithstanding. I've been actually trying to put out a video every other weekend, and
okay.
So yeah, that's not an illusion. And despite my best wishes, the algorithm is not trying to bolster my numbers. That's just me putting in the work and trying to put out videos more frequently.
There you go. Are these videos that you've had just in the can for a while, or?
No, they're flights that I've had in the can for a while, but the editing usually takes place. Yeah. I think the last video I put out happened in May, June, something like that. Not long after annual, so I guess July. But nevertheless, I'm kind of far behind in my editing, but it works out.
But this means you have content to work with for days.
This means I have content for days. And I was actually running low on content until I went flying with Ed.
Okay. From
the Flying Stampede, friend of the show, Ed.
Hi, Ed.
We did the Chicago skyline at night to go pick up some rescue dogs for Pilots and Paws. And I should be able to get a few videos out of that too.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Not why I do the flight. I do it for the goodwill of it.
Right.
It's a great excuse to go flying, but why not make some videos out of it? And the Chicago skyline at night is absolutely beautiful.
I can only imagine. That's got to be really cool.
Speaking of YouTube, and well, I guess for your other podcast, kind of running out of content, but also the work putting into YouTube. What do you have going on with all of your podcasting and YouTube and stuff like that?
All of the things. I did not mean to do this. I inadvertently ran out of content for Fly the Transition as far as interviews that I had recorded and ready to go. There's a couple of interviews that I had just already completed, and when I went to go listen to the audio and put everything together, every once in a while I'll get an episode that I record where the audio is just garbage for one reason or another. It's not very often, but the last couple that I had, the audio is just unusable. So that means I'm out of content on that one. I do have some interviews and stuff scheduled for the next couple of weeks. So, I'll have stuff coming up. I just haven't had time to interview anyone else to put new stuff up. So I planned on putting something out last week, and then all of a sudden, this audio sucks. So.
Oh, no. Well, in the meantime, though, you've got your solo episodes going too now.
Yeah, I've been doing those here and there. I don't want to do too many solo episodes because I still want to have it be, the bulk of it telling stories about people changing careers. So my occasional solo commentary aside, I think that was still the main point. That solos was supposed to be to augment the other episodes, but it's become sometimes more frequent. They're easier to do. Just sit down and type something up quick and then talk to myself. So,
sure.
On that same note, with the YouTube channel, I've been trying to put together our Lone Rock video still. And then I have a bunch of just raw video from like a hangar tour to go over the hangar again with all the recent changes. But I also kind of revisited this concept of This Week in Aviation History, which is what I was actually doing earlier today. I'm going to start putting out episodes on that, like just a quick 5-minute snippet of something within that week that's noteworthy in aviation. And the cool thing about that for me, if I have an afternoon where I'm going to the hangar or nothing going on, I can sit down and knock like 4 of these out in like an hour or two as far as the recording part. So,
oh, nice.
So when I'm done with this recording, I will be editing both This Week in Aviation History and this podcast.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Rich Wellner has not put out his Lone Rock video yet.
He hasn't. As long as I beat Rich Wellner, I win. That's my only goal at this point.
At least you guys have videos to put out.
You have been putting stuff out, so.
So I don't have any video from Lone Rock, but I do have an article.
You do. Let's talk about that. We haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah. So Friends of the Show, Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, has a quarterly magazine, Forward in Flight. And Rose, who is part of the WAHF.
Hi, Rose.
Asked me to write it. Hi, Rose. She asked me to write an article basically summing up the fly-in. And it was published in the winter edition of Forward in Flight.
Cool.
So I think it's really cool. It's the first time I've ever had anything published. The photos in there are all mine too, and it was kind of nice to see something I did in print where people will be able to enjoy the experience that we had and hopefully come join us next year.
You're really nailing this aviation communication business. You're podcasting, you've got a YouTube channel, now you're a published writer and photographer. What will you do next?
I just need to learn how to skywrite.
There you go. Or banner tow.
Banner tow, yeah.
That's a future project.
Yes. I did figure out, though, you know how I always put myself on mute and forget to unmute?
Yeah.
I figured out if you put yourself on mute, when you want to talk, you just push the space bar and it automatically unmutes you.
So you're using it like a push to talk or what?
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Oh, funny.
So I could be talking and then if my hand accidentally comes off of the space bar, then all of a sudden
you're gone.
Keep talking again. So I push the space bar again. And then when I'm done talking, I just now it's my turn to talk again.
Let's see how many times you screw that up.
Yeah, I'm just going to take it off of mute. Should we get into the news?
I think we should.
Okay, hold on. Spacebar off. Mute is off, and you can hear me.
I can hear you.
That could be a really disruptive feature of
it could be a
recording.
Hilarious feature.
It could be. However, not nearly as disruptive as a recent passenger.
I see what you did there.
That was a terrible transition.
Nope, we're going to run with it.
All right, sounds good. Not nearly as disruptive as a recent passenger on a flight from my neck of the woods, Milwaukee, to Dallas-Fort Worth, DFW. It was American Airlines Flight 1915, where a Canadian passenger became disruptive while the plane was in flight. Side note, I always thought Canadians were super peaceful. They were the most polite people I've ever met when I visited. So, I don't know, Canadian passenger causing problems on American Airlines. So they're cruising along 30,000 feet, doing 300 plus miles an hour. And all of a sudden he just gets up and starts trying to break into the cabin and basically just starts yelling, I'm getting off this plane. I got to get off the plane. So obviously that created quite a stir, quite a disturbance. Some of the passengers actually got up from their seats. They were able to subdue this passenger and pin him down. And the flight didn't, I don't know where in cruise this happened. Maybe it was late enough, but the flight didn't divert. They ended up just going all the way to DFW and landing. And the law enforcement authorities were there at DFW to meet him with all the kindness and joy that I'm sure law enforcement brings during an incident like this. So one of the passengers was describing this guy, and he sounds like a pretty big guy. They said he's 6'3", maybe 6'4", and it took a couple of passengers to subdue him. A flight attendant was injured in all of this, reporting that she had injured her wrist and neck, but it sounds like that's the worst of the injuries. So some chaos in the skies, but thankfully all ended well.
You know, until you said that it was a Canadian passenger, I was going to ask you how Dallas was.
It was beautiful. I got to see
the inside of the airport police station.
Yeah. Free room and board.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Swinging over to Michigan, you might have a new fun place to stop on your way to AirVenture if you're a seaplane pilot next year. So John Marvin has been working really hard for the last 2 years to get approval for a new seaplane base, which is achieving one of his dreams of creating such a base. It's in Vanderbilt, Michigan. Its identifier is Mike India 79. So John's been flying since the 80s, and he's had this dream of flying on and off the water for years. And essentially, he's had this cabin on a lake and calls it his own slice of heaven, and he wanted to create a seaplane base there. So he filled out an application back in February of 2022, and after that in the story, he talks about how he's mowing his grass at his local airport and saw a float plane getting fuel. He went and talked to that pilot and told him about that he was starting the process with the state to build a seaplane base. Little did he know that he was talking to the chairman of the board of the Seaplane Association. And when I mention the Seaplane Association, we're not talking about just like the Michigan State Seaplane Association. This is the Seaplane Association that is throughout the country. The idea working through this was to provide a stop-off point for other planes, hopefully for those going to EAA's AirVenture. So I know that it's winter and we're talking about seaplanes. However, mark this on your list of places to go check out. Again, it's Mike India 79, where he has built his own little seaplane base in Vanderbilt, Michigan.
We're going to go to West Lafayette, Indiana, where the Indiana Department of Natural Resources has been dealing with a fairly fatal disease in their deer population, which they refer to as episodic hemorrhage disease, or EHD. What does this have to do with aviation in the Midwest? Well, a lot of these diseases wipe out large populations of deer, and the Indiana DNR needs to know where the populations are so that they can properly hand out deer permits for hunting. So tying that into aviation, they are now using, in addition to trail cameras on the ground, crewed aircraft. So imagine, low-flying, almost like DNR 172s, and even drones as well, to help try and figure out where the populations of deer and other wildlife are, and more importantly, for the sake of hunting, to figure out the numbers so they know how many hunting permits they can issue each year. There's a really interesting quote in here about how the absence of proof is not necessarily proof of absence when it comes to the uncertainty associated with detecting wild animals in their natural habitat. So just because you don't see them doesn't mean it's proof that they're not there, is kind of what they're getting at. And obviously, trail cams, they're stationary on trees, for example, but using fixed wing or rotor wing aircraft to actually have literally eyes in the sky looking down, as well as unmanned drones, really increases the ability to cover a wider area and get a more accurate count of the wildlife. They say that technology like this can also be used in other scenarios, for example, determining patterns of bovine tuberculosis, which affects livestock, and even finding other small species of animals. And they say, for example, raccoons aren't going to be killed by EHD, but they are carriers of it. And so that potentially would be a contributing factor of where this disease might be found. Partnering in the project is the Division of Fish and Wildlife, as well as the Purdue University College of Veterinary Medicine. So hopefully they're not just trying to find out where these problems exist, but maybe even potentially solve them.
If you got a problem, you all solve it.
Yep.
Over to Jefferson City, Missouri, and the Jefferson City Memorial Airport. On Friday, November 22nd, they hosted a groundbreaking ceremony for a brand new air traffic control tower. Now, this isn't just building a new tower operation altogether. They have had a current air traffic control tower at the airport that was built as a temporary structure in 1973. It was well maintained, but it eventually needed to be replaced due to flooding and high winds. The city has entered into a contract with a builder to build a new tower from a grant from the Missouri?
Some might say Missouri.
They might. City's entered into a contract with a builder to build a new tower using grant funds from the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission. The project is said to cost $6.4 million, and the Jefferson City mayor has been quoted as saying that it won't have a negative impact on taxpayers. The airport itself brings in more than $20 million every year, and the new tower will be beneficial to ensure improved safety protocols and operational efficiency into the future.
So, speaking of building towers, and you mentioned $20 million.
Yep.
That's a lot of money. Did you see what this airport in Idaho did?
No.
To save money and build a tower?
What did they do?
I had to look it up to get the airport right. Close. It's the Coeur d'Alene Airport in Idaho. Built a control tower using shipping containers.
Shipping containers?
Yeah.
You know, I bet that the U.S. military does that.
They probably do.
Except,
yeah, he said.
Except for Idaho is not like a forward deployed environment.
Or maybe it is, and it's just top secret.
Yeah, that's the new battle lines have been drawn. It's Idaho.
Yeah. Yeah, so instead of the $20 million, $300,000 to build this tower.
Huh. Well, it's shipping containers, so.
Yeah. Still a lot of money, but.
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Is that all we got for the news?
It probably should be.
Before we get back into this episode, a quick word from those who make the podcast possible. Guess what, all my aviation friends? Summer has come to a close. We're midway through fall already, and before you know it, it's going to be time for holiday shopping. Well, have I got some ideas for you for your favorite aviator or aviation enthusiast? Starting off with my favorite aviation sunglasses, Flying Eyes Optics. They are the only eyewear designed specifically with pilots in mind. Flying Eyes frames are ultralight, flexible, and you won't even feel them under your headset. Their lenses are top-notch, they cut out the glare, and they protect your eyes from the bright skies. Plus, Flying Eyes offers prescription options for those who need to keep their vision sharp no matter what. Grab a pair this holiday season and use our code FlyingMidwest10 and you will save 10% off your order. Make your flights easier and clearer with Flying Eyes. Next up, let's talk about Lightspeed headsets, perfect for anyone who spends hours in the cockpit. These guys are known for their premium sound and advanced noise reduction, and Lightspeed headsets keep you fully immersed in communication, reducing fatigue on those long flights. I've had my Lightspeed headset for over 10 years and I would not dream of flying with anything else. They are rugged, they're built for comfort, and it's a gift that will keep on giving. By using our affiliate link down in the show notes, you'll also help support the podcast. Before we jump into the next part, Maddie has messaged us, says, "Give the people of Earth my regards." I know that Kansas is out there, but I didn't think it was that far out there.
Yeah, where?
Maybe she's implying she's a space cadet.
Maybe.
All right. Well, as we transition out of our news here, we have one final segment of Badgering Camp Scholler. Do you have anything to say as we enter this momentous occasion of the last one? Until next year when we make you do this all over again?
Just that it was a lot of fun. It really... The whole thing, I don't know why I came up with the idea, but it took me out of my comfort zone, and I really enjoyed it. I hope that everybody I talked to was able to listen at some point to the podcast and hear themselves talk.
Well, except for this person. Now they'll hear it now.
Yeah, now they'll hear it.
They've been waiting for months.
Yes, exactly. They've probably stopped listening by now.
Like, forget it. They're never going to play my clip.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of fun doing it. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll have the opportunity next summer to do it as well.
I love how you worded that. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity. Not that we're making you do this next year.
I don't know what my work schedule is going to be. I will make it up to Oshkosh no matter what.
Okay.
So, just I don't know if I'm camping. We'll see.
Well,
I'm also too old to be sleeping in a tent for a week.
Hey, I got a place we can. We'll go to a hotel. It'll be fine.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. All right. Well, all right. Without further ado, Badgering Camp Scholler.
What are your names and where are you from?
I'm Hannah. I'm from Brookfield, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. Yes. So just right up the road.
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm Viviana. I'm from Rochester, New York.
Okay, a little bit further out. I'm going to get closer so the mic can keep you guys up.
Top a seat if you want.
Oh, that's all right. I'm only going to be here a minute or two. Excellent. How long have you guys been coming to AirVenture?
This is our first year.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Very cool. What do you think of it so far?
It's a lot of fun.
Good.
I'm an aviation enthusiast. It's my first air show ever. So,
Excellent.
this is really cool to start it off.
Awesome. Very cool.
I've been coming since 2019.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Have you been camping the whole time?
No, this is my first year camping.
Okay, excellent. What made you decide to take the leap this year?
I wanted to be here for a longer period of time this year. Only living an hour away, it's not bad to drive, but it's not ideal.
Right.
And having them come in from New York, it really was, it seemed like the best of both worlds where, we can camp and we can all be together and not have to worry about driving or dealing with anything outside of, sitting here and relaxing and having a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I like your setup with the tiki torches and everything. It's really nice. Do you guys camp outside of coming to AirVenture?
I've only camped 3 times in my life. He's camped a lot.
Yeah, I'm the Boy Scout, so I done all the camping and shit.
Okay.
So we were going to go camping for a week, and I'm not a big aviation person, so they're the ones with the aviation background.
Okay, so you're here for the camping, you're here for the aviation, and
make sure
you're the tour guide.
Yes.
And we'll have food, and I'll have a good time.
Excellent.
And I'll walk around, I'll get some airplanes, and I'll see the cool stuff.
Awesome. I didn't get your name at first. Tom, also from Rochester, I take it? Okay, excellent. All right, so how many nights have you been here so far?
We've been here since
We got in
Saturday.
Okay.
So, was that 4? 3? This is our 4th night.
Okay, so leaving here as first-timers, you'll leave as veterans. Any suggestions you'd have to anybody who else would want to come here and camp at Camp Scholler for the first time?
Bring a bike.
Bring a bike? Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one, everything's so far away, especially if you camp, out here. I think camping was a great choice for me. I've enjoyed it. I don't mind walking, so.
Sure.
But, if you do mind walking, definitely bring your bike. But yeah, I only came here on Monday, but I think it was a good choice because it's very much like you can do AirVenture at your own pace compared to feeling like you are, like being at an amusement park for one day where you're like, I have to get in every single line for every single ride.
Right.
More like, okay, I can wake up when I want to and I can walk over and,
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, you guys. I've got some stickers for you guys. So I appreciate it. I have the same bench, by the way, the same chair.
We actually found those also from Goodwill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like $3.
Awesome. That's better than what I found.
The one right around the front.
Okay. So you mentioned bikes. I've heard stories, and maybe you guys did this. People will buy bikes at the Goodwill, use them for the week, and then just donate them back at the end of the week.
We were trying to find some, but they only had kiddie bikes.
Oh, really?
We could have been on the baby bikes. I don't know.
Sure. There you go.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again for your time, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Have a good time.
You too.
Oh, really? Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Leave a 5-star review and a nice rating, too. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Oh, that's awesome. First time campers here. And for one of them, their first time here in general. So, very cool. Oh, and of course, thank you for starting to follow us on Spotify. That's awesome. Thank you. Morning. Good, how are you? It looks like you're packing up and leaving, and I wanted to catch you guys before you left. My name's Andrew. I'm a co-host of a Flying Midwest podcast. And I've been going around the grounds all week talking to people about camping in Camp Scholler. I know you're trying to tear down, but can I take a few minutes to ask a few questions?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate it. What are your names and where are you from?
Steve Vanderhoof, Springfield, Missouri.
Excellent.
Bill Brewer, Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri.
Awesome. Very cool. And I saw you guys rode up here on motorcycles.
Yep.
How long have you been camping in Camp Scholler in general? And has it always been on motorcycles?
Well, I've been camping for years. This is Bill's second time, isn't it? Last couple of times we did. It's before COVID, and then this is our second time bringing the tent trailer.
Okay. It's a unique setup. Can you tell us a little about it?
Yeah, it's an Aspen Classic. It has a king-size bed, has a 6x6 dressing room, a storage underneath the trailer's available, even whether it's collapsed or whether it's set up for sleeping. So gives you a lot of storage. You know, a lot of guys have a touring motorcycle, like to pull a little cargo trailer. You still got room for your cargo stuff to be in there, so it works out pretty good.
Awesome, very cool. Other than the storage aspect, is there a unique aspect to camping out of a motorcycle that people might not think of if they want to try it?
Well, you don't have any shower facilities, you don't have any bathroom facilities, so you have to camp close to where you have the facilities. Yeah.
Sure, I gotcha. What about riding on the grass? Like there's a lot to do this morning, and
that's a problem. Yeah, this is a problem. Well, not the grass, and what you did, it's so rough.
Sure.
Yeah, and yeah, you know, normally it'd be better if we were over on the other side. We didn't get here early enough to get a parking place on the other side where the hard stand is, so
sure,
we just have to suffer through it.
Sure.
Not our fault. Not their fault. It's our fault. We didn't get here early enough.
Oh, it's nobody's fault. I got here before you, and we ended up in the same place. Really? Yeah, I was here first thing Monday morning, and ended up right next to you here. So.
Okay. Yeah, we saw you already there. We didn't have any idea when you got.
Yeah. It was busy for sure.
Paragliders and that's something.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, excellent. I'll let you guys finish packing up. I appreciate your time. I see you guys both wearing Vietnam hats. I appreciate both of your service as well.
Yeah. So
thank you very much, you guys.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, Badger. That was the last one.
That's the last one. Until next year.
Until next year. See ya.
No, we can't see you yet because we don't even know what's actually coming up in this episode.
Oh, I just meant for that specific segment.
Oh, okay.
That was just a Badgering Scholler, not the whole episode.
All right.
Well, since you mentioned it, I suppose you want to know what's on this episode.
This is another one where I wasn't there, and Maddie wasn't either, right? This is just you?
No, this is one where I just happened to be able to find an opportunity to interview Jerry Burke. I know that we had talked about maybe trying to do it as a group, but Jerry Burke is a longtime volunteer of AirVenture, and he's covered it professionally through his work in the media. But Jerry used to do the plane talks before Ryan Dombrowski did, and he's written a book that talks all about the volunteers of AirVenture. And unfortunately, you two weren't able to be there for that, but I was able to find a handful of minutes to sit down with Jerry right at that concession area next to Boeing Plaza and outside of the merch building, where he was signing his books throughout the week. So big thank you to Jerry Burke for sitting down and chatting with me for a little bit. But that's what this is about. It's all about the volunteers of AirVenture, as well as a little bit about how he came up with Plane Talk way back in the day.
Can't wait.
All right. Without further ado, Jerry. Welcome, everyone, to another special edition of the Flying Midwest podcast, live from AirVenture. We're just outside Boeing Plaza with Jerry Burke, author of a book about the volunteers at AirVenture. So thanks for joining us, Jerry. Appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
So we're going to start off with our series of Fast 5 questions. It's going to be mostly AirVenture related. So you ready?
Go.
All right. Question number 1. Favorite plane you've ever seen at AirVenture? Doesn't have to be this year.
Yeah, I can't even. I don't want to go there because it'd be unfair to everybody else. The biggest and the best one was obviously Concorde. The first time it came here in '85.
Okay.
It was here a total of 5 times. So I'll keep the answer short for your sake.
Okay. Best kept secret of AirVenture?
Best kept secret or overall?
Overall, in your opinion.
I don't know if there is a secret. I think everybody knows about it. I've been out here, this is my 54th year, so
wow.
There's no secrets with me. I've never been in jail, let's put it that way.
Okay, that's good. Worst weather experience you've had at AirVenture?
84,
okay.
Without a doubt. The North 40, where all the general aviation planes park.
Yeah.
We had so much rain that one night, there had to be at least 3,000 planes parked there, and it got flooded out. Everybody that was camped out there had to go to South Park Middle School, which is about a mile away.
Okay.
It worked out, but boy, that was a terrible year. Does that scare the daylights out?
A little bit. That's why I camp in a hotel.
You're smart. Room 404.
All right, question number 4. Favorite food or beverage on the grounds?
It's not here anymore. We used to make fun of it. There used to be one vendor out here for years. I won't name them because I'll get sued. But they had one that was called the Bermuda Burger.
Okay.
Consisted of a very large onion, Bermuda onion, and a bitty patty.
Okay.
And it left issues. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. All right, now I know you've met a lot of people in aviation, but if you could meet someone in aviation that you haven't, that are alive, and have a conversation, who would it be?
Oh my, that's a very difficult question. I've been privileged, Jim, to meet an awful lot of very good pilots, top shelf. Sean D. Tucker, Julie Clark, Patty Wagstaff, among the many. There's just, I hate to single any one out, but I've never had a bad pilot, let's put it that way. The warbird pilots, they're all, they're nice people. That's what I love about being out here.
Yeah. There's a lot of great people out here, and I think that's part of why a lot of people keep coming back. You come for the airplanes.
Well, you come to see the planes,
but you come back for people.
The people bring you back.
Yeah,
I've done so much reminiscing this week, to the point of where we've laughed a lot, but to the point we've also shared a lot of tears about do we remember so-and-so,
sure,
and what they did, and so on and so forth. I've made an awful lot of friends out here, and I feel very privileged and honored to have done so.
That's great. All right, well, thanks for playing along with our Fast Five questions. We're going to jump into our interview questions. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you first began covering AirVenture all those years ago.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was in the Air Force, and when I got out, I started working at a radio station here in Oshkosh. And a guy by the name of Steve Whitman, whom this airport is named after, Steve and I knew each other. And he called me in January of 1970. He says, "Hey, Jerry," he says, "we got a thing coming here to Oshkosh in August." He says, "I think you'd be interested." And I says, "Oh, really? What is it?" I said, "Why are you calling me so early?" He said, "Well, I just want to give you a heads up." I said, "Okay, that's fair." So I said, "What's the name of the outfit?" He says, "EAA. I'm Air Force, ex-Air Force then. I went, "What the heck is the EAA?" So August got here. I came out here. Steve introduced me to a guy by the name of Paul Poberezny.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah. And as the saying goes, the rest is history. I realized AirVenture, it wasn't AirVenture, it was just EAA. I realized quickly as a reporter, this place has got a lot of good stuff, a lot of good stories. And that's how I got started. Then I got into television a couple of years later, and I told my news director at that time, I said, "We got to be out there every day and cover this thing." And he kind of poo-pooed it at first. But I ended up doing a story about the B-17, and I rode in the cockpit of the 17 with my camera, my movie, Bellenhausen DR-70, and I filmed it. And I bounced around in that, and there was a lot.
I bet you did.
And I got back down, we edited it, put it on the air, and it just drew reaction like nobody else. And so that was, and then from then on in, we were out here every day. And Channel 2 at that time became the go-to station for anything EAA. And it would stay that way until I retired in 2007.
Okay.
I've been privileged to meet a lot of pilots, flown a lot of aircraft, et cetera, and I'm not going to bore you with everything else, but that's what keeps me coming back, and that's why I started volunteering when I retired.
Okay, and that was actually my next question about, you did retire, obviously, and you started volunteering for EAA, but you didn't first get involved in, like, the media side of it, or what did you first start volunteering with?
When I retired in 2007, Edsel Ford was in charge of the West Ramp, now Boeing Plaza.
Okay.
And he says, "Jerry, you got to come out and help us out." I said, "God, I'd love to." So I went out there and I started volunteering, and one day we're out and waiting for the planes coming in. There was an F-16 arriving, and Edsel hands me the batons. He says, "Bring her in." I went, "I've never done this before." He says, "You've seen us do it enough. Bring her in." So I brought her in and got it parked, and as the canopy went up and the pilot started to get out, Edsel yells. Back then the F-16 was still a really popular aircraft.
Sure.
Still is. but there was a lot of people gathered around, and Edsel yells out, "Captain, you just had a virgin bring you in." The crowd went nuts. So, I mean, we all had a good laugh.
Okay.
And then after that AirVenture in 2007, Tom Pobresny called and he says, "Jerry, we're wasting your talents. I got an idea. I would like you to do a thing we're going to call Plane Talk, which is interviews with the pilots and crews on the Boeing Plaza in front of their aircraft."
Okay.
And they bring these John Deere carts around with the big speakers on them.
Yep.
And we get a big crowd. We get about 1,000 people around every time we would do one of those.
Right.
And we could do a 52. We could do the Honor Guard with the Air Force when they were here. We do it 16, A-10s, you name it. We did those, and they were really, really popular.
So you kind of were the start of the Plane Talk then, as it is. How has that evolved over the years?
Well, I retired from doing those in 02. Yeah, come on, Jerry. In 22, and Ryan Dabrowski does them now.
Yep.
I handed them off to Ryan, and Ryan has done a good job in picking up where I left off. What you do is you go over, try to make arrangements in advance of AirVenture.
Okay.
So they know what's coming. Make contact with the military, the private pilots, etc. Line it up so when they get here, it's not a shocker to them.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, when we talk to the pilots or crew members, I always tell them, like I did when I was teaching college, let's pretend that you and I are sitting in a bar and we're having a beer. I don't want you to get too technical, but you tell me whatever.
Okay.
And the ones we had the most fun with, Jim, were the fighter pilots, because they've all got a handle.
Yep, they sure do.
A lot of those handles, you got to be careful how they and how they develop those handles, or where they got the handles, because some of them are pretty raunchy. Let's put it that way.
They can be.
And we had fun with it. The guys and the girls, we had good time talking about how they got their handle, and that's what it's all about. Part of it's entertainment.
Yeah. So those Plane Talks you did, are they just live, or are they?
They were all live.
Okay.
Now they can video them.
I was going to say, I was curious if they were rebroadcast anywhere afterwards. Or?
No, they were all live, and that was it.
Okay.
Starting in 21, we did video some recorded and put them on the web.
Okay.
Now, when Ryan does them now, they're all going on the web.
Got it. Okay.
So, but that's changed since it's just 2 years.
Yeah. The times keep changing.
Oh yeah, they do.
So, during your Plane Talks, is there any moment or interview or opportunity that stands out as a highlight for you?
No, not really. The people I've interviewed over the years were really good. I always told them bring an element of humor to it.
Okay.
I said, because we're talking about your bird, but keep it easy for people to understand, because most people out here are pilots. A lot of people are pilots, but we have a lot of general audiences out here, and they don't. When you start getting too technical, goodbye, they're gone. They'll go find something else to look at.
Right.
And I always told them to keep a sense of humor in there, and we'll go from there. And most of them did. Again, the fighter pilots were the ones that could really bring some humor in.
Sure.
And a lot of them I got to know. They were back year after year, and they were like, "Hey, you ready to do another Plane Talk?" Yeah, well, let's go do it. And they were fun to work with. The C5 guys were probably some of the best. They were some of the funniest. Also the A-10s, the Warthog bird. Oh, God, the stories they could tell. And when you talk to the guys about when they did flying over Iraq, or the ones from Gulf War, I would purposely ask them questions where, if I tell you, I got to kill you. Because that would again bring out a sense of humor.
Right.
You know, and so that would work. Anyway, go.
So, transitioning away from Plane Talk a bit, you're signing books out at AirVenture this year.
Yep.
You've written a book about the volunteers of AirVenture. Tell us a bit about the book and why you decided to tell that side of the story of AirVenture.
Well, 2 years ago, the photographer that has pictures in my book, Jim Kepnick. Jim is probably, he doesn't like it when I say it, but it's closer to the truth. He is the best aviation photographer in the world. Jim and I have been friends for 40 years. And 2 years ago, actually closer to 3, Jim and I were having coffee one day, and I said, God, has anybody ever done a book about the volunteers? I said, because without them, this place doesn't operate.
Yeah.
And Jim says, I don't know. I said, well, let me call Rick Larson, who's in one of the mucky mucks out here, so to speak. And I called Rick, and he says, no, not that I'm aware of. He says, let me run it by Jack Pelton, who was the CEO.
Yeah.
And Jack called me a couple of days later and he said, go. That's all I needed to know. So every year out here, I don't know if you people know, but there are 5,000 plus volunteers every year out here that make this place work. And they don't come here because they have to, they want to. And most of the volunteers are veterans. They've been out here multiple years. You go over to Warbirds, guys have been volunteering out here for 40, 50 years.
Wow.
You go to Home Builds, same thing. There's a mother and grandmother that work the main gate to get the people in. They've been here since EAA came here in 70.
That is incredible.
The grandma is, I think she's my age. Let's not talk about that. But that's the way it is. You come out here, you meet the people, and like I was telling you before, Jim, we've done so much reminiscing this week. I don't know why, but we have. And it's just, you come to meet, the first year you're here to see the planes.
Yeah.
But then you meet the people, and that's what brings you back. And you can't wait to see them next year. It's a family reunion.
Oh, for sure.
600,000 of my closest friends.
Right. That is one of my favorite sayings about this show.
Yeah, you bet it. And it's true. It's true. I wouldn't venture to count how many I've made over the years.
I can only imagine. So, obviously, we just talked about this event wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the volunteers. Actually, you answered that question already. It was how many volunteers does it take to bring AirVenture to life? We'll skip that. So, in writing this book and just being around the grounds for so many years, what have you learned about how that all comes together?
It's amazing. It's a miracle. It really is. Well coordinated. The first year I covered this was in 1970. And it was maybe a tenth of what it is today.
Yeah.
It's just grown by leaps and bounds. I remember the first year we had ultralights here. They brought it, there was only a few, maybe less than a handful. And my brain's dropping. Anyway, the first ultralight that came in didn't have landing gear. With your legs. John Moody.
Okay.
Thank you. It came to me. And John came in and I went, there's no landing gear. Oh my God, he's landing with his legs.
Good grief.
He ran. And then when he takes off, he's running. Well, John, of course, and I were very young back then. And John was the one that developed landing gear for ultralights.
Okay.
He developed the one that's called the Icarus. And so that was the first year there was only John's ultralight and maybe one other. By 1980, there was more than 100.
Wow.
And now look at, you go down to the south end of the 1-8, and there's thousands of ultralights down there. Other memories. It's just grown. Boeing, their presence here, you would think their factory was right here. That building is huge.
It's huge, yeah.
And Boeing got a bad rap this year, by the way, in my opinion. I worked closely with Boeing when I was in the Air Force. I will never say a bad word about them. They were good people to work with, and I'm glad they're here. We were worried they weren't going to be here because of the other issues, but...
Sure. Well, and they've had such a large presence over the years, too.
Oh, so. Yes, and it's gotten bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah. Tell me a bit more about the book. What kind of stories were you hoping to tell, or direction you're going?
It was about the unsung heroes, the volunteers, and it almost got away from me. I mean, if I were to write about 5,000 volunteers, the book would never get done.
Right.
So I picked and chose, and I picked out. I tried to. The volunteers I found were all 30, 40-year volunteers out here. And I tried to pick some from each division: the Warbirds, the people who run the air show, the people who run the ultralight division, the home builds, and so on. The I call them play-by-play announcers. The guy that do the so you hear over the public addresses system that describe what is going on.
Sure.
Bill Bordelot, Danny Clesham, and so on. Danny's the only one that's still alive. Bill passed away a few years ago. And it just, again, these are people you get to know, you get to love, and you look so forward to seeing them every year. That's what brings everybody back, and so on and so forth. I can bore you to death for the rest of the year if you want, Jim, about this.
I think it's fascinating, the idea of the volunteers that all come together for this.
Yeah, and again, my book isn't that long. It's an easy read, I think. But there's a little bit of history about EAA in there, about how it got started.
Yeah.
And there's a lot about the volunteers. which is what I wanted to do. But it's a tribute to I call them the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
The people who put this thing together. And God bless them.
So as you're writing this book and you're talking with different volunteers, what kind of stories stand out to you as highlights?
In my book?
Yep.
Oh, my. I'm not going to be unfair to anybody. Let's put it this way. My bride, my wife, she knows that I like coming out here, so does our son. And he's been a volunteer out here for 30 years now.
Okay.
Mary's not a real big aviation buff. She did not read this or when I had read my drafts until it was done.
Okay.
When she read it, she went, "That's a good book." And she says, "It's interesting." So if my bride, who's not a big aviation buff, says it's interesting, I'm flattered. What a compliment.
Yeah, yeah.
And her sister, who's not a big aviation buff either, read it, and she went, "Yeah, damn, Jerry, you did a good book." That's a nice compliment. So it's not just for aviation buffs. If you do any type of volunteer work, you may learn something from my book. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there.
Okay. So you talked a bit earlier about the photographer, Jim, that helped
Jimmy.
you out with some things.
Yeah.
So his photos are featured in this book as well, right?
Yep, right. Yeah, absolutely. Guess how many photos we had to go through to pick out?
Oh, I don't even want to...
30,000.
I was just going to ask, I was going to guess that.
And we had 30,000 photos to go through. Oh, God.
How do you pick?
Well, I let Jim do that. We left so many out that we could have included, but printing photographs is very expensive.
Yeah,
in a book,
I'd imagine
it adds up, and that's why the book is not real expensive. It's pricey. It's $35, but the photos that are in there tell the story.
Sure.
They are the icing on the cake, so to speak, if I dare say that. Not that my book is not a cake, but Jim's photos add so much to it, and I've had and we wrestled so hard with the title.
Okay.
Oh, Jim says, "You do that. I'll take the pictures." So I'm running all these different titles through my head. I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing. I went through probably 50 iterations before I finally came with Up on the Grounds and Up. And it's about the volunteers, not only on the grounds, but the ones who fly here. That's what shocks a lot of people. The performers here do not get paid.
No kidding.
They're flying gratis.
Okay.
But the other thing is, you don't fly. Let's say you're a pilot, Jim, and you come to your AirVenture and you're a good aerobatic pilot. I want to fly. Ain't gonna happen. You got to be invited to fly here.
I would imagine so.
And so the pilots make money from their sponsors and from other air shows across the country during the years. But to get invited here, they say this is well worth it. And then you got to be on your top level best because you're flying in front of your peers.
Yes, you are.
And when Patty Wagstaff and Julie Clark are in my book, they're the couple of women that broke the glass ceiling for female pilots, aerobatic pilots. Julie especially. Patty's not far behind. And they're two of the neatest ladies in the world. I love them. They're good. And Sean Tucker, they're all top shelf.
So my last question for you is there anything about the book or the volunteers that you want to talk about that I haven't asked you or that might be important for listeners to hear?
I just wish I could have done more, but the book was, again, it's not that long, but it was getting away from me.
Yeah.
And Mary, my bride, said, "Dad, you better be careful here," because I was getting pretty tense. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get it done in time for this year.
Okay.
And then I had some health issues. I had open heart surgery, which threw me behind for 6 months.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, well, that's beside the point, but I got it done. Thank God.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm proud of the book. I've been complimented by the people who are in charge out here. So that is I didn't write it for making money. I wrote it because these people deserve recognition.
That's a fantastic reason. And I'd have to echo that. I mean, just walking around the grounds as, a spectator, you see them, but I think that, a lot of times that they get kind of lost in the hustle and bustle. But they're everywhere.
All you got to do is ask a volunteer. And you know what, Jim? If they don't have the answer, they know somebody who will, and they'll lead you to that individual that probably is right over their shoulder.
Sure.
And that's what's really cool. And everybody out here, 99.9% of the people that are here who are volunteers are just, they're here to help. And that's the best part of it. And you don't find that. I'll give you one story.
Okay.
Last summer, one of the kids, a young man was out here. He lost his wallet, and there was a lot of money in it.
Okay.
And he came up to us and he went, I lost my wallet. What do I do? And I said, well, go to Lost and Found. And I says, how much money was in the wallet? And I won't say it on the air, but it was a lot.
Okay.
2 days later, they notified him. They found his wallet. Not a dollar was missing.
That is fantastic.
You don't find that anywhere else. His wallet would have been cleaned out and gone.
Yeah.
Everything was, his IDs and all were in there, and every dollar. And again, it was a boatload of money.
Sure.
And he was just fit to be tied. Well, I would be too.
Yeah.
So would you.
Yeah, for sure. For those who are not at AirVenture this year and able to meet you in person, get a copy of your book signed, how can people get a hold of your book?
It's on Amazon.
On Amazon?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's and if you order it like today, you could get it, I think, within 2 days, maybe one. If you're a Prime member, it's usually within one.
Okay.
And again, I'm not making a lot of money on a book. I get very little for the book. And it's not for me. I didn't do it to make money.
Right.
I did it because these people deserve recognition.
Right. Well, I cannot thank you enough for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to chat with me. And I think it's really great to talk about the other sides of things that people may not think about always when it comes to AirVenture and what it takes to put this together.
I appreciate your time, Jim. Thank you so very kindly, and good luck.
Thank you. Well, thank you once again to Jerry. That was a really fun interview to do with him. We unfortunately ran out of time, so I didn't get an Aviation Unpopular Opinion. He had to go on to his next festivity on the grounds, but it is just incredible the amount of people that have to come together to make AirVenture happen. And it's a lot of volunteers in the background that make that happen. So thank you to all the volunteers. If any of you listening are a volunteer at AirVenture, thank you for what you do in making that event happen.
You stole my thunder because I was also going to thank them, but I will.
You still can.
I will do it anyways. Thank you to all of the volunteers. Like Jim said, the show couldn't go on without all you guys and gals doing all the work that you do, and it does not go unnoticed.
Right.
We see you guys out there, and we appreciate it.
We see you. All right, Sir Badger. What do we have coming up on our next episode? Do you like how I knighted you now, by the way, Sir Badger?
Sir Badger. I do see
You've been knighted.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Our next episode will have to do specifically with winter weather. So our last solo episode was winter in general, as far as flying preparation and all that. We're going to dive more into what it means to actually be flying in this winter weather, dealing with icing considerations, dealing with the higher winds that we often see in winter, and really get into the weeds with what it is to fly in winter weather and some of the unique hazards that it poses. So if you would like to be a part of the conversation, we would love to hear from you. The best way is to email us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com and get a link to our Discord server, where earlier today I actually started the discussion on there asking for feedback from people. Another great way to get involved is to reach out to us and join our Patreon. Patrons receive bonus content, things like behind-the-scenes videos. Occasionally, when we record live, we'll live stream our recordings, and you can see our beautiful faces and our feeble attempts to flawlessly and seamlessly record an episode, and much more. And you can join in the chat as well for our live videos and give us your feedback live, and we can read it on the show.
Speaking of those live episodes, that next solo episode where we talk winter flying is one of them that we want to do live. So keep an eye on those two places, both Discord and Patreon, to get exclusive access to that live recording so that you can jump into the chat and be part of the conversation. That information should be coming out in the next couple of days as we solidify our schedule over the next few weeks.
Yep, and you can also keep an eye on our Facebook and Instagram accounts. We will post on there as well when we'll be doing a live stream.
I'd say just this one more time. After that, you need to join Patreon or Discord because that is exclusive to those communities. So,
join
us.
That's true.
Join us.
Yeah, we'll tell you about it on Facebook and Instagram, but you can't get in.
Can't get in
without being a patron or a member of the Discord. But open to everybody is liking and subscribing to the Flying Midwest podcast on your favorite podcast player. So if nothing else, do that and leave us a 5-star rating and a review, and we will read your review on a future episode.
I'm out of reviews to read, so we'd love to read some more.
And speaking of winter weather, winter is in full effect, especially up by you, Jim. I know it snowed quite a bit by you. We had some flurries today. I flew through snow flurries for the first time ever today, and it was awesome.
But did you die?
No, I lived. But as we discussed in the last episode, pre-flighting in the winter is the worst. So make sure you go to our merch page to get your favorite Flying Midwest media sweatshirt, hoodie, all that good stuff. And you can also base layer with your favorite Badger Pilot t-shirt.
That's true. You can.
So go check out flyingmidwestmedia.com/merch.
Nope, that's not the website.
Yep, okay.
It's flyingmidwest.com.
Flying Midwest. So go check out flyingmidwest.com/merch to get all of your favorite Flying Midwest garments.
I think we covered everything.
I think so.
All right.
That's a first.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up.
Did we find a review?
No, there's none in there.
Oh, okay. Write us a review, people.
Please.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we are thankful for all of you. So we really appreciate your support and your listenership, and we can't wait to continue doing this with all of you in the future. So, all that said, until next time,
see you.
Chip.
Flight Chef 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35 today.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.